Hello and welcome to National Focus. I'm Pearl Fontaine. Thanks for joining us. Topping the headlines, high-level Chinese delegation on three-day visit to Dominica. Benz and Simei and Ansel Dar reunion 2012 officially launched, and details for the funeral of the late John Fabian. All these stories and more when National Focus returns. Welcome back. Time now for the details of the news. 8 years following the establishment of diplomatic relations, a high-level Chinese delegation is currently on island discussing the possibilities to further expand the relationship between the Commonwealth of Dominica and the People's Republic of China. The 25-member team, led by Vice Chairman of the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress in Beijing, Chen Shangzai, arrived in Dominica on Monday afternoon for 3 days. The visiting team was met by Speaker of the House of Assembly, Honorable Alex Boyd-Knight, members of Cabinet and officials from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. On their arrival to the capital city Monday evening, head of the Chinese delegation met with Prime Minister Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit and members of his cabinet. The Prime Minister welcomed the Chinese delegation to the island. The country's leader expressed gratitude for the tremendous level of support given to Dominica by China over the past 8 years. Prime Minister Skerrit told the visiting delegation that Dominica will continue to recognize the One China policy.
We recognize and view China as a strong ally of Dominica, and so is Dominica to China.
The Prime Minister told the Chinese delegation that they should consider Dominica as their home and that he looks forward to both countries working together on matters of mutual interest. Meanwhile, head of the Chinese delegation to Dominica, His Excellency Chen Shangzai, speaking through an interpreter, said it was a pleasure for him and members of his team to visit the island. He told Prime Minister Skerrit and members of his cabinet that he was deeply moved by the warm welcome to the island. His Excellency Shangzai thanked the government of Dominica for its commitment to the One China policy.
As Mr. Prime Minister said just now, he and his government have been committed to the One China policy and have given China great support on the issue of Taiwan. We appreciate this support and we thank you for that.
The head of the Chinese delegation pledged his country's continued support to Dominica towards its economy and social development.
China has given its assistance to Dominica. Going forward, we will continue to do what we can to provide assistance to Dominica in economic and social development.
The Chinese official congratulated the government of Dominica for the tremendous strides made in developing its people. Going forward, His Excellency Shangzai said China will continue to host high-level visits, parliament-to-parliament relations, as well as people-to-people exchanges in the interest of promoting further growth and friendship among the both countries. Meanwhile, the Chinese delegation on Tuesday morning paid courtesy calls on Dominica's head of state, His Excellency Dr. Nicholas Liverpool, and Speaker of the House of Assembly, Honorable Alex Boyd-Knight. The Chinese delegation during those talks got an opportunity to speak on the progress of relations between China and Dominica. Members of the Chinese team also had the opportunity to meet with members of the opposition on Tuesday. GIS News will bring you more details on the Chinese delegation's visit to Dominica in Wednesday's newscast. 79 students from the convent high school celebrated the culmination of the high school chapter of their lives last Wednesday on the grounds of the Botanic Gardens and will journey on to new beginnings. A huge turnout of supporters at the graduation ceremony, including the president and his wife and ministry officials, looked on as the graduates stood proud as the ceremony signaling one of their greatest achievements was about to begin. Head girl Katie Williams cited a few words from Edward Cook stating that the fireworks begin today.
The fireworks begin today. Each diploma is a lighted match. Each one of you is a fuse. And so today, we, the class of 2012, embark on another extraordinary journey with grateful hearts and blessed spirits as we hoist our sails to set off on the ocean of life.
Principal of the Convent High School, Josephine Dublin, stated that the effectiveness of any program must be measured by the students' success as she presented a statistical report on the students' achievements.
Convent High School had secured a 96.8 percentage pass at the 2011 CSEC examinations. This represents a 0.2 percentage point increase. The 89 students from a total of 103 who obtained 5 or more passes must be commended. But special congratulations are in order for the 21 who secured 5 or more grade 1s. Later in our ceremony, we will make presentations to 11 of these who have obtained 7 or more grade 1s.
President of the Dominica Association of Teachers, Mrs. Celia Nicholas, was the featured speaker.
The theme, with grateful hearts and blessed spirits, we journey on, implies, graduates, that you have been given, you have been touched, you have been armored. Now, you feel duty-bound to respond graciously. You are ready to journey on in hope and so reflect what you have received at the Convent High School. During our lifetime, we all experience transitions. We move from one stage to another. Today marks the culmination of your educational efforts, perseverance, and hard work at the secondary school level. You planned, you prepared, you invested in time and resources because of your firm conviction that education is the key to a better future. The journey does not end here. It is only the beginning, a next chapter in the thrilling and dramatic book of life.
Monsignor Reginald Lafleur presented diplomas to the class of 2012, while academic awards were presented by Mrs. Verna Liverpool. Mrs. Celia Nicholas presented non-academic awards. Honorable Justina Charles, Minister for Youth, Sports and Culture, represented the Minister for Education. She offered some sound advice to the class of 2012.
As your secondary school career ends and a new journey begins, you have the opportunity to stop and reflect on the role you want to play in your community. You have now been given the chance to start anew, and it is an excellent time to consider what you will give back for all that you have received. Remember the old adage, to whom much is given, much is expected. While I encourage you to continue to hone your skills and approach your education with sound work ethics, a positive attitude and blessed spirit, I also expect you to look beyond yourselves to the contribution you can make to the development of your communities and ultimately to national development.
Leah Dodds, who captured a number of academic and non-academic awards, was the 2012 valedictorian. She advised her fellow graduates on the journey forward.
However, let us remember that we are called to be positive leaders and not mere followers who bow down to peer pressure. Let us keep our heads up high and let us not allow ourselves to be deceived. Let us steer our boats away from these negative influences. We need to pray and seek God's face, but most of all, let us put Him first in everything. We take advice from the book of Proverbs, chapter 3, verses 5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not unto your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths.
We at GIS congratulate the graduating class of 2012 at the Convent High School and wish them all the best in their future endeavors. Violet Irene John Baptist of Portsmouth is Dominica's 16th centenarian for 2012. Here now is John Hector with a special report on the 100th birthday celebrations of our latest centenarian.
In a chapel surrounded by mango and banana trees, which swayed in the occasional breeze, Violet John Baptist, a Dominican born 100 years ago on June 28th, celebrated her birthday. Family, well-wishers, and of course all cameras were present on Thursday morning at Violet's Thanksgiving service at the Portsmouth Catholic Church, where Father Herman Sharpless had the honor of delivering the homily. Father Sharpless spoke of Violet having lived a love-centered life.
Let us not take each other for granted. Don't show expression to people when they're dead. It's too late. When somebody dies and you show an expression, you're doing it more for yourself than they're doing it for them. Because they are not there to express how much you are grateful for it. So you try to console yourself, and so you do all that you can do for them, but it's more for you. But when they are alive, let us show them the love and the appreciation. As we celebrate our sister's 100th birthday, we cannot lose focus of the fact that if she's still there, it's because she has been loved. And that's why Jesus said at the end, he says, the sensible man, you know what he does? He builds his house on rock.
Born Violet Irene Lamoth in the tiny community of Cottage, she is a petite woman with eyes that hint mysteriously at the numerous stories probably making up her life of hard physical labor. Her family and the people closest to her tried describing her personality, and they all said the very same thing, that she is a quiet woman. So how does one pick the brain of a centenarian of few words? Well, I didn't know, so I gleaned snippets from her family. It was all very mysterious. I learned that although she was born in Cottage, Violet grew up in Colliho with her godmother before marrying Ferdinand John Baptist. She was only 19 and her groom 29. They had 5 children: Roosevelt, Britton, Julian, Irma, and Yvette. Violet spent a significant portion of her life traveling back and forth between Guadeloupe and Dominica after staying in the French country as long as 18 months in some instances before returning home and settling down for good in Portsmouth, a community similar and quite close to Colliho. There, Violet's life comprised her family, her Catholic faith, and her garden, so much so that she was a farmer, producing vegetables and provisions until she was 95. Many years later, her husband of 51 years died quietly in his sleep one afternoon, leaving her a widow at 70. Violet's family is a large one. From her 5 children, she has 25 grandchildren and 27 great-grandchildren. Her family, the Kelshers, John Baptist, Greenaways, and Guys, represent her in Dominica, England, and the United States. Currently, her 2 sons live in England and were unable to attend the festivities due to ill health, but during the reception, her 3 daughters buzzed proudly about her, singing to her comfort and all her needs at the lavish reception that was put on for her after the church service on Thursday. In addition to Violet being a reserved woman, she is also a fiercely independent woman. Her camera-shy granddaughter, Cami, told me that Violet lived on her own, managing her own affairs until 5 years ago, when her family felt that she was no longer able to live on her own. Even then, she refused to live with relatives and be taken care of, and that's when she became a resident at the Grange Home for the Aged. Cami laughed when she whispered to me that shortly after moving to the home, Violet ran away from Grange to go back to her own house. After that display of self-governance a few times, the family sat down with her and reasoned out the pros and cons of her staying at the Grange home. It appears that Violet probably has a few more stories of self-determination to tell. There are a few questions that people usually ask of centenarians. One of them concerns their diet, so I had to ask what Violet liked to eat. Fish, fish, and more fish. Kami spoke of her grandmother drying her own fish and preparing meals of provisions, vegetables, and fish. I'm beginning to detect a trend here. Maybe there is something to be said for eating local. Violet's first daughter, Julian Kelcher, told me of the entire family's love for her mother.
Well, and I love her. We all love her. She has been good to us. We all love her, and she has been a great mom. She has worked hard for us and with us. She taught us everything we know now. And I'm very happy that the good Lord has granted her this life today. She's 100, and I am very happy about it.
One grandchild moved her mother Yvette to tears with her pledge of support to Violet.
Today, God has blessed her, giving her the opportunity to celebrate her 100th birthday. And with that being said, her children are very proud. Let us give thanks and praise to the Almighty God for giving her the strength and courage to live to see 100 years today and beyond. I stand before you today, Mama, and I say thank you for having me as your granddaughter and my mom as your mom. Mom, Yvette Guy will continue to be part of your life, and although I live in the U.S., I will continue to do my role as your loving daughter and as a granddaughter.
Another Violet's daughters revealed that she had prayed for her mother to live a long and healthy life.
I am very proud of my mother, of God sparing her life to reach that age. I asked how she did it. She had a very rough life, and God has blessed her to see this day. I always ask you, do not forsake her when she gets old. Give her the strength and the courage that she will be able to move on and on and on. She has worked hard, and she has reached this age. I wish her all the best, now and forever, as my children that cannot be here send their best wishes to her.
One would want to know how Violet felt about becoming Dominica's 16th centenarian for the year. She would probably never tell, but somebody saw her dancing from the minute she woke up on the day before her birthday. Kami did mention that it was predicted that Violet would live a long life. It would have been interesting to hear what Violet would have to say about that. There were so many questions I wanted to ask Violet, but I figured some things like the secret to longevity on this island might be better left unsaid.
GIS News congratulates Violet John Baptist on her 100th birthday. At the official opening ceremony of the 2012 Benz and Zume and Soldar reunion, Prime Minister Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit stated that a reunion is significant in community building. He says while it's a time for social interaction, it's also a time to discuss how to improve the community.
We see a reunion as a very important instrument in bringing people together and invoking in them that consciousness of their need to play their part in the country's development, and more specifically in the development of Benz and Zume and Solda. It is an opportunity for those of us who live out of Dominica to come back and to fellowship and to socialize with our family, friends, and residents. Yes, there has to be an opportunity for the fetting, but it's an opportunity for us to see what is it they can do, those of us who live in the United States or Canada or elsewhere, to uplift Benz, to uplift Anzdeme, to uplift Ansolda.
The Prime Minister commended a returnee for his contributions to empowering his community.
We have very shining examples of people who lived out of Dominica and who have come back in a very quiet way, but making a huge contribution to the development of these communities and indeed Dominica as a whole. If I were to vote for somebody who stands out, not only in this part of the country, but the entire country as a whole, I would certainly vote for my friend, the Chairman of the Village Council, Mr. Williams, for the kind of investment he has made in this part of Dominica. He has in fact taken this bold step, and contrary to the people who spend a lot of time on the internet talking a bunch of nonsense or on the radio, He is a very unassuming person, but has a vision for this community and has put his dollars where his mouth is and investing to create jobs and sustainable jobs for the people of Benz, Anzimbe, and the entire country. I want to say to you, Mr. Williams, on behalf of the government and people of Dominica, we're very grateful for your investment, and rest assured, you have the strong solidarity of the entire cabinet.
The Prime Minister encouraged nationals residing outside of Dominica to return and invest in the country.
So we are to urge those of you living out of Dominica to come in and to buy a piece of Dominica. Do not wait for you to retire to build your home in Dominica. Do not go to Miami from New York on vacation. Come down to Benz on vacation and stay at the Atlantic Hotel and Resorts so we can create jobs in Dominica. Do not go to Carnival in Antigua and not come to Carnival in Dominica. Do not go to the St. Kitts Music Festival and not come to Dominica's Music Festival. You have to take your holidays in Dominica, and that's how you can make a contribution. Another way you can make a lasting contribution to the creation of economic activity and jobs in Benz, Anzimbe, and Solar is by opening an account at the credit union and saving monies there, so that those of us who live in this part of Dominica can go to the credit union and get a loan to build our homes and to create jobs in Dominica.
We'll bring you more on the 2012 Benz and Dumé and Ansel Dar reunion in a subsequent newscast. In other news, Minister for Tourism and Legal Affairs, Honorable Ian Douglas, wants nationals to recognize the impact crime could have on communities and the entire country. The minister, in his address to residents of Grand Bay last week, also mentioned the impact of the drug trade on the island's young people.
All of the productive citizens, all of the young, hard-working people, the people, let's say, between the ages of 20 and 45 until 50, when they get involved in those types of activities, either one, by getting involved in peddling, in trafficking, they, sooner or later, they end up in problems with the law. They either end up dead or they end up in prison, or if they end up on the other side of the negative spectrum where they end up using the substances, that also causes their bodies and their physical structure to break down, and you know what happens is downhill from then.
Deputy Commissioner of Police Hobbs John Baptist has assured the public that there are facilities in place to address any form of indiscipline within the police force. John Baptist was responding to a question from a resident of Grand Bay during a discussion on crime and antisocial behavior last week.
The Police Act makes provision for what we call a disciplinary code. Mark you, the laws of the state relate and refer to the police officer just as well and as much as it relates to every citizen, that a person is innocent until proven guilty. The mechanism in the law is what is followed. It is, as a number of us believe, it is a pretty drawn-out process, but that is what is in the law. We are at the moment making attempts to see how well we can make it more efficient. But yes, there is a discipline code which addresses indiscipline in the police force.
An official day of mourning and a state funeral has been announced for this Saturday, July 7th, in honor of the late John Fabian, former member of the House of Assembly. The late John Fabian, who was also parliamentary representative for the Grand Bay constituency, passed away on June 22nd. Viewing will be between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. on Saturday at Matutus Park in Grand Bay. The funeral service will follow at 3 p.m. at the Grand Bay Roman Catholic Church, following which he will be laid to rest at the Grand Bay Roman Catholic Cemetery. Also on Saturday, all state flags are to be flown at half-staff on all public buildings. In more news, Police Chief Cyril Carrot says actions have been taken to address the Cash for Gold program, where foreigners were approaching nationals to exchange gold for money. The police chief, responding to a question from a resident of La Plaine, explained that so far actions adopted by police have curbed the number of incidents.
It is felt that people can exchange what they have or give what they have for equal monetary value and what have you. But what we have done, and I've noticed that I haven't seen that happening recently, is that there was some time ago, they came and they bought gold. Because what those thieves do with the gold is that they cut them up. So it's difficult for the persons who lose them to identify them. So the last time what we did, and I think up to now we have some gold, is that we kept the gold for investigation. And who is to determine how long we're going to conduct the investigation? So they went to Venezuela, they returned, they went back, they returned, and we still have the gold because we are conducting investigation, and we are positive that when they stole, those persons who sold the gold to them did not get them in that shape or form. And they want to get the gold back, and we are insisting that we are holding it as long as we possibly can. And I think that has been the deterrent now for these people going about, because I don't see them, I haven't heard of them going about purchasing cash for gold.
Minister for Education, Honorable Peter Sejean, wants parents to recognize the clear distinction between abuse and discipline. The minister made the comment while he addressed a recent meeting at the La Plaine Government School.
If you discipline your child, there is absolutely no reason for the welfare department to step in. But, and if you abuse that child, there is every reason for intervention by the welfare department.
The Ministry of Health has included occupational health and safety as a priority in its corporate plan for the next 10 years. The Environmental Health Department is charged with the responsibility of coordinating the implementation of the health and safety program at workplaces throughout the island. Chief Medical Officer Dr. David Johnson says this is being done as part of the ministry's mandate to develop policies and guidelines to improve the health of workers on the island.
The aim is to create an awareness on safe work environments among the entire population, which will serve as a platform to implement our Workers' Health Program. The Environmental Health Department, as you realize, is collaborating with other agencies to develop strategies which would guide health and safety at the workplace over the next 10 years.
The Environmental Health Department recently conducted a series of workshops with professionals involved in a number of key industries in Dominica. Dr. Johnson says the department is also working to strengthen its legal regulatory framework to ensure the optimal health and safety of all categories of workers in the workplace. The Ministry of Health is looking to establish a national occupational health and safety committee. That committee, according to the island's chief medical officer, is expected to comprise of representatives from labor division, labor unions, members of the private sector, and the Environmental Health Department.
One of the main objectives of the committee will be to develop policies and guidelines to improve workers' health at the workplaces. I truly applaud the efforts of the department in promoting safe working environment also in schools, on the roads, and in homes. There is an urgent need to pool our resources to prevent further deterioration by strengthening existing institutions and establishing networks within Dominica and with other countries in taking action to prevent further degradation of the environment.
And that's the English segment of the news. Macpherson St. Louis is next with the Creole highlights.
Allô tout le monde, bienvenue à cette nouvelle en créole. Non, moi c'est Macpherson St. Louis. Premièrement, on a une délégation China qui a payé une visite Dominique semaine salam. Délégation là qui est arrivée en pays lundi semaine salam. Joint et puis président Excellency Dr. Nicholas Liverpool, Premier ministre Honorable Roosevelt Skerritt, Speaker du Parlement Honorable Alex Boyd Knight et puis chef opposition Honorable Hector John. Speaker Boyd Knight, bienvenue délégation là en l'office bon matin là. Après ça a été tenu en joint session en Parlement qui était attendu par officier gouvernement et puis opposition. Vice-chairman Parti communiste Chinese Excellency Cheng Shangzai délivré une adresse pour membres du Parlement. chairman Shanghai en parole et délivré, parler contre bonne relation en parmi d'autres qui a existé en Dominique et puis China. Premier ministre Honorable Roosevelt Skerritt, oui, commitment continue à supporter One China policy. Et aussi remercier China pour assistance Dominique déjà reçue et puis qu'a gardé devant relation ça la continue. Délégation là aussi qu'a tapé opportunité à prendre culture et puis la vie en Dominique. Délégation People's Republic of China Salam qui a quitté pays là mercredi pour la Grenade. En d'autres nouvelles, Dominique a mis en place coupé assez low carbon substance. Ça c'est bagay qui a affecté environ là, bagay changement climatique. Parole cela sorti hors ministre environ Honorable Dr. Kenneth Darrow. Ministre Darrow Asilo. Dominique fait présentation qui concerne ça en Summit Développement Sustainable qui était pour place en Rio, Brésil, mois passé.
Climate change, c'est un issue qui était une prominence en meeting ça là. Et ça a commencé depuis 1992. Dans 1992, c'est un whole issue climate change ça a juste commencé, il a juste commencé à monter tête. Mais actuellement, science là a montré qui actuellement plus qu'avant, nous ne pouvons comme la terre et pas Dominique tout seul. Later, because Dominic is contributing pour climate change. Dominic pas pour faire ça, because nous c'est carbon neutral qui dit nous pas mettre carbone dans l'atmosphère plein nous servir. So Dominic avait essayé les autres pays les Caraïbes avait essayé les autres islands là nous pas ni pour faire ça. Ça qui concerne nous c'est ces pays qui souffre plus parce que c'est gros pays qui a servi tout en pétrole de toute fossile fuel qui a contribué plus pour climate change et ben on peut aider nous pour comment ça combattre mitigate ces effets climate change là avec comme dit science là qu'a montré c'est pas bonne nouvelle c'est pas ma leçon qu'on prophète qui a dit la terre Calvin qu'on parle qu'on doomsday mais science là ça a montré nous que si nous pas cut down on the emissions là pour l'année 2050, 2100, peut-être nous pas gagner la terre encore. So nous pour concern pour génération qui va venir après nous.
Membre parlement pour Gombe, Honorable Justin Charles, t'es bien encouragé par ancien membre parlement John Fabian. Honorable Charles a encouragé famille M. Fabian pour prendre courage et spécialement tant il perdu un membre à famille ailleurs. M. Fabian qui passe 2 semaines qui recevait un lettre officiel samedi semaine cela.
Dernier bitin là il fait avant il dit mon pour make sure mon garde occupé comment pendant temps mon encourager avait dit pour chebe spirit là make sure il reste avec Jésus avait ponche mais il même gaba mon plus avec encourager mon pour faire ça mon supposé faire pour un des gens qu'on so nous réellement chez John avait mon quand il dit pour madame li avait enfants chebe fond il fait tout ça il était supposé faire pour John avait c'était un plaisir pour aller à l'hôpital mania yote ko chipe eve mania yote eve juste il fait mes yeux so mon quand il dit yo pour chebe fort bon Dieu que ba yo reward yo eve bon Dieu c'est un bon Dieu qui toujours avec nous so il peut continuer doubout avec yo eve ende yo.
Et puis finalement chef officier département santé Anthony Scotland qui a fait parole que département santé là qui a mis autant attention en ces 3 l'année là qui a venu à ces affaires bon standard conditions où la moun ka travaille. Scotland fait parole la semaine passée qu'on département santé était observé moi j'ai comme moi santé environ. Scotland dit il est bien important moun travail à bas conditions qui peut pas affecter santé ayo et puis bagay qui dangereux. Département là qu'a créé à cette l'occasion qui a employé moun pour mettre toutes mesures en place moun ça travail à bas bonnes conditions. Messieurs mesdames, ça c'est tout pour nouvelle créole pour à présent. No more c'est Macpherson St. Louis. Au revoir.
When we come back, we'll bring you the upcoming events and government notices. Please stay tuned.
Let your spirit take to flight. Let your heart run free and wild. Find your soul in Dominica, the nature isle.
You're watching GIS.
Time now for your government notices. All those concerned are asked to note the following hurricane shelters and shelter managers for the communities of Tarish Pit, Kings Hill and Cochrane. In Tarish Pit, your hurricane shelter is the Tarish Pit Resource Center, where the shelter manager is Telford Laura and the assistant is Miranda Esprit. In Kings Hill, the Kings Hill Baptist Church is your hurricane shelter. The shelter manager there is Malvina Walsh Leslie and her assistant is Aaron Dirampel. In Cochrane, your hurricane shelter is the upper floor of the Cochrane Government School. Shelter manager Ronaldson Piper, assistant manager Matthias Esprit. The Fisheries Division announces the conducting of the 23rd Basic Fisherman Training Course for new and prospective fishers and entrepreneurs. The course will take place at the Portsmouth Fisheries Complex Conference Room from Monday 9th to Friday 13th July 2012. Persons who have already completed application forms are asked to visit the Fisheries Division office in Roseau or contact Glenda Thomas, data collector at the Portsmouth Fisheries Center, to confirm their attendance by Friday 6 July 2012. Members of the public are asked to note the following numbers which could prove useful during the hurricane season. The Office of Disaster Management located in Jimmet. The telephone number is 448-8831 and the hotline is 448-7777. The Dominica Met Service Office located at the Canefield Airport. The telephone number there is 449-1990. The Dominica Met Office located at the Melville Hall Airport. That telephone number is 445-7878. The weather hotline is 447-5555, or you may visit the website weather.gov.dm for updated weather reports. Up next is the tip of the day. Today's tip is about saving money, and to save money, one should make it a habit to avoid impulse buying. Many of the things you may want to buy might not seem entirely necessary, especially if you can wait a day or two. And waiting means one of two things. You can now make an informed decision on whether to purchase or not, or waiting probably means you didn't need that which you thought you needed to begin with. So save your money instead of being frivolous with it. And that's National Focus. As usual, we invite your suggestions or comments. Please feel free to drop us an email at gis@dominica.gov.dm, or you can visit our website at news.gov.dm, or you could visit our GIS Dominica page on YouTube and Facebook. On behalf of the entire news production team, I'm Pearl Fontaine. Thanks for watching.